to my studio. Today I'm going to show you how to paint this adorable greeting card of a place called Keaukaha Beach. Keaukaha is a lava rock black sand beach located on the windward side of the big island of Hawaii. And it's a really beautiful spot, very peaceful, and the colors are so dramatic. This painting tells a little bit of a story of the place, and I do like to do that when I do landscapes. I like my paintings to have a lot of information, visual information in them. So there's the coastline in the background, which is Mauna Loa, and it's going to be a nice violet gray, and 3 coconut palm trees sort of nestled together right at the edge of the black sand beach, and a nice lava rock cove where if you were standing there, you could look into the water and see some colorful fish swimming around. The light in this photo, in the reference photo, is not that dramatic, but you can make out shadows of the palm trees cast onto the sand. So I emphasize that in my painting. And the clouds are, of course, nice, bright, puffy island clouds. And I'm using my travel set, my 12 color travel set, which has all the colors you need to capture this scene. So I started with a deep yellow, azo yellow deep, and I added some yellow to the palm trees. And then I mixed cadmium yellow lemon and azo yellow deep to make the green grass. So the green in the grass is on a horizontal surface, so it's somewhat reflective. And so I wanted to make the grass a lighter value of green than the green in the trees. So the green in the trees is Hooker's Green Deep, and I mixed, of course, those yellows with it. And in the grass, I added a little bit of Hooker's Green as well. And at the edge of the grass, it meets this red iron soil, and so I put a dark green line there. And in a little while, I'm going to come back in and show you how to paint the reddish iron soil. For the water, I'm using cerulean blue, and then I'm going to drop in some phthalo green into the cerulean blue in the foreground. And in the background, where the ocean meets the bottom of the island, I'm going to be adding some ultramarine blue and also some cobalt blue. So a little tip about painting seascapes. Typically, blues get cooler as they recede. So that means that the blues in the foreground, closest to the viewer, are going to have some shades of teal or green or something like that in them. So on the color wheel, the blue in the foreground is going to lean towards yellow. And then the blue in the background is going to be cooler, meaning that it leans towards violet on the color wheel. So the 2 colors on this palette that are more violet shades of blue are ultramarine and cobalt. Ultramarine is the most violet, and then cobalt would be next. And cerulean is more of a teal or a turquoise blue. So that one is closer to green on the color wheel. And then phthalo green is a beautiful bright green with just a hint of blue in it, and it's absolutely the perfect color for painting tropical water. As I'm painting the water, notice how I'm leaving lots of little white marks. I'm leaving the white of the paper showing, and I'm not making my brush strokes perfectly horizontal. I'm making them sort of dip. So I'm putting the tip of my brush down and then pushing and lifting. And not every mark is made that way, but a lot of them are. Next, I'm going to paint the lava rocks. To make the dark for the lava rocks, I mixed quinacridone purple bluish plus ultramarine blue plus burnt sienna. As I paint the rocks, I'm painting them from the bottom to the top, and I'm leaving a little bit of white showing on the top because I want them to look like they're glistening in the sun and they're wet, and there's a wet highlight which would be white. So I'm just going around and painting each one of the rocks in. These rocks sort of tell the story of this being a little cove. And the big rock that I'm painting now, the big lava rock, shows the edge of this sea cliff. All the sea cliffs in Hilo are lava rock. And behind the sea cliffs are usually green grassy areas or coconut palms on sand and rubble beaches. One of the ways I like to paint with watercolor is to let the colors mix on the paper instead of in my palette. So I'm starting with I'm starting with yellow ochre, and then I'm adding a little bit of cobalt blue to it, and I'm going to also add a little bit of quinacridone rose. That's a really wonderful 3-color gray. So the lava rock beach is a mixture of coral rubble and crushed lava, and so it's not quite as dark and black as the rocks, but it's still a very dark colored sand. But it has the sun shining on it, and I want to make sure that the beach has a nice glow because I'm intending to come back and paint the shadows of the palm trees cast over the beach. So if the beach was too dark, the shadows wouldn't show up. Now I'm putting in the red iron soil that is separated that separates the grass from the beach, and I used the red, the pyro red, and the azo yellow deep to make that color. Excuse me, I said pyro red. That's my oil painting color. What I meant to say was it's Rembrandt permanent red deep. Anyway, I'm using those two colors to make that reddish brown. So for the mountain, for Mauna Loa, the island in the background, I've mixed quinacridone purple bluish and a little bit of ultramarine and also a little bit of burnt sienna to make it be not such a bright, pretty purple. I want it to be a natural looking purple. So remember that colors get grayer as they go back in space, and the mountain is in the background, so it needs to be grayed down. I made my composition purposeful in that I wanted the mountain to show behind the trees. I didn't want it to just be on the right side. Having the mountain in the background will help the trees pop forward and give my painting depth. So because this is Hawaii and this is a tropical place, I'm adding some green over the purple and I'm letting it mix on the paper. So it's going to be a grayed down green, but I wanted to give that hint of green in the mountain just because it's Hawaii and there would be green on the hillside there. So for that green, I used Hooker's Green Deep. For the clouds, I'm mixing cobalt blue, yellow ochre, and quinacridone rose. This is a beautiful color to make that sort of gray, soft color that clouds have, where you can see the three-dimensionality of them. I'm putting it on very lightly, and I'm not coming close to the blue that I put in the sky. I'm just staying on the inside of the cloud. I am going to come down and bring that gray right to the top of the mountain, but this gives the clouds the look of being backlit, and it makes it look like a hot sunny day. For the shadow of the palm trees, I used burnt sienna and quinacridone purple bluish and a little bit of ultramarine deep right at the base of the palm tree trunks. So thinking about the way I want my painting to feel, I want it to feel like the sun is really strong and hot. And so emphasizing the darks and the lights and making sure that there's a strong sense of yellowy greens in the foreground will help me get that look. So that's why I darkened the green at the edge of the lawn a little bit more using Hooker's Green Deep and Ultramarine Blue. And I also darkened the green behind the lawn. Then for the bushes behind the trees, I used Hooker's Green Deep, and I'm going to add some yellow to the tops of them to make it look like the sun is hitting the tops of the bushes. I'm using both of my yellows, cadmium yellow lemon and azo yellow deep. If you mix those two colors together, it gives you something similar to cadmium yellow pale. Now I'm going to add ultramarine blue and quinacridone purple bluish to the water. When rocks are underwater, they look like a deep blue violet, and so those two colors mixed together are perfect for this. I don't want to put too many of them underwater, but I do definitely want to have that look of a few rocks underwater, which makes sense because you have rocks sticking out above the water, so logically there would be some rocks under the water as well. So even if rocks are brown or golden, underwater they'll still look like a violet blue gray underwater. The lava rocks look like a really deep violet blue underwater. I also added a little bit of the violet blue. I connected it to the palm tree shadows because the palm trees would cast a shadow into the water as well. I'm adding a few hints of cadmium lemon to the foreground water just to brighten the green colors of the water and bring it forward a little bit more. I want to give my beach a little more texture, so I've mixed burnt sienna with a little bit of quinacridone purple bluish, and I'm adding some texture to the bottom of the sand where it meets the water, and also up on the left side. These beaches are so beautiful and so unique. They're full of lots of debris from trees and things, little bits of coral, big rocks, small rocks, and so on. And so when viewed from afar, they look sort of gray, but it's nice to add those little textures. Makes the painting more interesting. I'm also going to add a shadow to the palm trees. I initially made the trunks with yellow ochre, so to make the shadow I used the same colors of burnt sienna and quinacridone purple bluish for the shadow side, the same colors that I used to add texture to the lava rock beach. And at the base of the palm tree, I wanted to have an extra dark dot of color, so I made a darker color, a darker value of the burnt sienna and quinacridone purple bluish at the base of the tree. And the palm trees look a little washed out to me, so I'm going back in now with some ultramarine blue and Hooker's Green Deep to emphasize the darker greens at the centers of the tree. And again, this reflects that effect of the light coming from behind and the trees casting a shadow, just like the clouds look like the light is coming from behind. So we've given the clouds sort of a backlit look, and the same thing for the trees. So in order to give something a backlit look, you need to make it dark in the center and a little bit lighter around the edges. I'm using my Posca white acrylic pen to make a few little wiggly lines where the water's moving around the rocks. I looked at my painting and I decided it still needed a little more yellow, a little more of that look of sunshine. So I'm adding a mixture of cadmium lemon and azo yellow deep, and I'm adding it to the edges of the palm trees and to the grass. It's still green, but it really looks sunny now with that extra added yellow. Just a few more details, a few extra darks to emphasize the sun hitting the lawn and a little bit of a shadow cast. Finally, I'm going back into the water and adding a little more of cadmium lemon to the water. I wouldn't use azo yellow deep in the water, it's too orange, but the cadmium lemon is really a nice extra added touch to give the water that extra bit of sunshine and bring the foreground forward and help the background look like it's really sitting back. Here are a couple of photos from our last trip to Hawaii. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video.